June 14th, 2025, 3 p.m. Columbus, Ohio. Tommy had been counting down to his 7th birthday for months. 7 years old, the center of attention, balloons stacked in bright towers, cake iced perfectly, friends already running through the house shouting. Everything was going exactly as he had imagined, until the doorbell rang. When his mother opened the door, there was no delivery man, no neighbor, no familiar face. There was only a clown. Bright, ridiculous colors, oversized shoes, a red nose that gleamed unnaturally in the sunlight, and a painted smile stretched far too wide for a human face. His eyes, dark and too sharp, scanned the room in a way that made Tommy's stomach twist. "Hello, Tommy," the clown said cheerfully, his voice sweet and calm, carrying an odd weight beneath it. "I've been waiting for you." Tommy blinked. You weren't supposed to come," he stammered. The clown didn't answer. Instead, he stepped inside, carrying a large box filled with balloons, toys, and tricks. He moved in an almost floating way, too smooth, too deliberate, as if he had rehearsed every step long before this day. Tommy's parents froze. They hadn't hired a clown, no invitation, no call, nothing. Yet the clown acted as if he belonged there, as if he had been expected for weeks. The children ran to him immediately, laughing and clapping. He twisted balloons into dragons, poodles, even snakes that seemed to slither in their tiny hands. He pulled coins from behind ears and made small toys vanish only to have them appear in impossible places. Every trick was perfect, every smile unblinking. Tommy's mother tried to step forward. Um, excuse me, sir, did we—" The clown turned to her, tilting his head slightly. "Shh. Let the children enjoy themselves." His voice was soft, but there was a quiet authority in it that made her stop. She didn't argue. Hours passed. The children laughed, played games, begged for more tricks. But Tommy noticed something strange. Every time he looked away for a moment and then back, the clown seemed closer, as if he had silently moved while no one was watching. The parents' unease grew. He didn't just entertain, he observed. Each laugh, each movement, each glance seemed cataloged, stored. When the children played hide and seek, the clown participated in strange ways. He would count loudly, then open his eyes before finishing, standing perfectly still in the shadows. Sometimes he would disappear for a few minutes, only to reappear behind a child, almost like he had been somewhere else entirely. Tommy began to feel a creeping fear, but the excitement of the birthday made him ignore it. By the time cake was ready, the mood had shifted. The clown guided the children to the living room, surrounding them in a circle. He handed Tommy a small gift he had seemingly pulled from thin air, a toy Tommy had mentioned wanting weeks ago. He bent close to Tommy and whispered something. Tommy giggled and nodded, but when his mother asked what he said, he couldn't explain. The clown's presence had a way of pressing into the mind, occupying thoughts without anyone noticing. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A balloon popped sharply, startling everyone. The children squealed. The adults tensed. The clown clapped his hands once, slowly, deliberately, and the smile seemed to stretch, widen, until it looked almost unnatural. Tommy froze. The parents tried to step forward, but the clown appeared in the doorway, motionless, raising a single hand. "Just let them have fun," he said softly. No one could argue. Then without a sound, he was gone. One moment he was there, twisting a balloon into a rabbit. The next, nothing. The children screamed, running to the door, but the clown had vanished. There were no footprints, no door movement, no sound of departure. Only the box of toys and balloons remained. That night, Tommy woke to giggling, soft, faint, almost playful, but wrong. He sat up in bed and saw a balloon drifting down the hallway. It didn't roll or fall. It floated, deliberately, like someone was guiding it. He reached for it, but it slipped past his hands and hovered in the corner of the room. In the following weeks, balloons began appearing in strange places, on the stairs in the living room, even floating outside his window. Tommy's parents tried to dismiss it, blaming the wind or his imagination, but Tommy described the clown in increasing detail. Every night he spoke of him, and the more he spoke, the more real the clown became. One evening, Tommy woke to find the balloon hovering over his bed. The clown's voice whispered from somewhere near the window. "It's time." Tommy's heart pounded. The balloon drifted closer, then stopped just inches from his face. He reached for it, and the balloon moved away, teasing him. For hours it floated silently, watching, waiting. Months later, on Tommy's next birthday, the doorbell rang again. No invitation, no call, nothing. The same clown stood there smiling wider than ever, carrying the same box of toys. Tommy didn't hesitate. He opened the door. The clown stepped inside. And just like last time, no one could stop him. From that day forward, the clown never left. Every year on Tommy's birthday, he returned. Balloons, gifts, whispered words, impossible tricks. No one remembered hiring him, but he always remembered them. Soon the neighbors began noticing balloons appearing outside their windows. Children began talking about the clown, describing him in detail, even if they had never met him before. And in the quiet hours of the night, those who had seen him swore they could hear faint squeaks of oversized shoes pacing outside bedrooms. Waiting, always waiting. No one knew where he came from. No one knew why he returned. But the clown remembered everyone. Rachel had always loved yard sales. Something about finding a forgotten object, a hidden treasure, thrilled her in a way nothing else could. On that late summer afternoon, she stumbled upon a small mirror propped against a stack of books in a quiet, dusty corner. Its frame was ornate, cracked at the edges, gilded in gold that had dulled with time. She ran her fingers over it, feeling the rough texture of age, imagining the lives it had reflected over the decades. Without much thought, she bought it, carried it home, and placed it in her bedroom. That night, as Rachel prepared for bed, she caught a movement in the glass. At first, she thought it was a trick of the dim streetlight filtering through her curtains. A shadow shifting, nothing more. But then she saw him, a clown standing behind her in the reflection. Red nose, white face, black eyes that seemed to bore into her. He didn't move. He didn't smile. He simply stared. Rachel spun around. The room was empty. Her heart raced, her hands trembling. She laughed nervously, telling herself she was imagining things. Maybe she was tired. Maybe she had let herself get too caught up in the strange thrill of her yard sale find. She turned back to the mirror. Empty. No clown. The next night, she didn't sleep well. Shadows seemed longer, darker. When she looked in the mirror, he was closer. Same posture, same silent stare. She tried to cover the mirror, drape a sheet over it, but when she pulled the sheet back in the morning, the clown was still there. As days passed, the appearances became more frequent. Sometimes he would tilt his head, sometimes he would raise one finger, pointing at her with no warning. Sometimes she swore she could see the faint outline of his lips moving, forming words she couldn't hear. Rachel tried everything to get rid of him. She moved the mirror into the garage. She even tried to smash it, but the glass would not break. Each night, when the lights went out, he returned. Closer now. The feeling of being watched never left her. She began noticing other things. Small changes around her room. A balloon in the corner, though she had never brought one inside. Small footprints on the floor, though she lived alone. Objects subtly moved from their original places. It was as if he was testing her, observing her, slowly learning. One night, desperation took hold. Rachel faced the mirror, her hands shaking. "What do you want?" she whispered. The clown didn't answer. Slowly, he lifted his hand and traced the outline of her reflection in the glass. Then, impossibly, he stepped closer. And in a blink, his image wasn't behind the glass anymore. He was in her room. Rachel stumbled back. The clown's painted smile was wider than ever, a perfect, inhuman stretch of red across his face. His black eyes reflected nothing but darkness. He extended a hand toward her. She ran, knocking over furniture, tripping over books. But wherever she went, he was there. Silent, patient, unstoppable. In a moment of courage, she grabbed a chair and hurled it at the mirror. It passed through the glass like air, leaving no mark, no crack, nothing. The clown's smile widened further. Rachel screamed, realizing she was trapped. Every door, every window seemed farther away. The room had changed, as though the mirror had expanded its reach, bending reality itself. The following morning, Rachel awoke in her bed. The mirror was gone, the wall behind it smooth and unbroken. She thought she had dreamed the entire ordeal, but when she looked into her bedroom window, she saw him. His face reflected back at her, impossibly close, red nose gleaming in the sunlight, black eyes fixed on her. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He simply waited. Days turned into weeks and Rachel's world narrowed. She avoided mirrors. She covered every reflective surface she could find, but they were everywhere. Windows, spoons, phone screens. He was always there, always watching. She began speaking less to others, fearing they would see him too, fearing they would not believe her. One night she caught movement in the hallway. Slowly, almost silently, he appeared at the doorway, stepping from shadow to shadow. He raised a finger, pointing directly at her and whispered, though no sound came. Rachel could feel the weight of the words pressing against her mind. Something terrible was coming, and it wanted her. Her attempts to leave the city failed. Wherever she went, he appeared. She began sleeping with lights on, recording herself at night, trying to prove he was real. Footage showed nothing at first, but on review, there were glimpses, blurs, shadows, and finally the unmistakable red nose appearing in reflections that shouldn't have existed. The final night came unexpectedly. Rachel had barricaded herself in her apartment, mirrors covered, windows shuttered. She waited. Then she heard it, a soft tap, tap, tap against the glass of her bedroom mirror. Slowly she dared to peek. The clown was there. Not in the glass, not in reflection, but standing in the room. Impossibly tall, impossibly still. He smiled. And this time Rachel understood. He had waited. Every step, every move, every night of fear had been leading to this moment. There was no escape. She screamed. He stepped closer. The room seemed to stretch, the walls bending inward. She tried to run, but it was no use. The clown had already crossed the line between reflection and reality. By morning, neighbors reported seeing the apartment dark, quiet, the blinds unmoved. Rachel was gone. Only the mirror remained, propped in the corner, clean and pristine, as if nothing had ever happened. And in its reflection, faint and almost imperceptible, the red nose glimmered, waiting for the next person foolish enough to stare. It had been years since anyone had set foot in the old circus grounds. The big top tents sagged under decades of neglect, their colors faded to dull, rotting stripes. Rust covered the metal frames, and weeds grew tall, swallowing the pathways once lined with gravel. Stories had circulated for years, rumors of disappearances, strange sounds, glimpses of clowns long after the circus had closed. Teenagers in the neighborhood whispered about it like it was cursed, daring each other to sneak in on Halloween night. A group of four, Maya, Liam, Zoe, and Derek, decided to take the dare. They approached the gates at night, flashlights cutting weak beams across the darkened lot. The moon was obscured by clouds, leaving the circus in deep shadow. As they stepped through the rusted gates, a chill ran down their spines. Silence hung heavily, broken only by the crunch of dry leaves underfoot. The first tent loomed above them, its flaps torn and flapping in the wind. Inside, remnants of the circus remained. Rusted chairs lined the floor, broken props lay scattered, and old posters peeled from the walls. Maya laughed nervously. "It's just old stuff," she said. "Come on, it's Halloween. Nothing creepy here." They moved deeper. The second tent was filled with old costumes, hanging on racks that groaned under the weight of dust and mildew. Red noses, oversized shoes, and tattered wigs swayed slightly as if caught by a breeze that didn't exist. Zoe picked up a costume, laughing as she put it on. "I look scary, right?" she joked. Then they heard it, a faint giggle. They froze. Derek pointed a flashlight toward the sound. Nothing, just the empty tent. "It's probably a raccoon," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. They moved on, though unease began to settle in. The main tent stretched before them, massive and shadowy. Inside, the stage was empty, the seats covered in decades of dust. Liam stepped onto the stage, shining his flashlight around. As he did, a red glow caught his eye. Something moving in the corner. A small red nose rolling toward them. He froze. "Guys, did you see that?" Maya laughed nervously. "It's a toy. Probably left behind." But the red nose rolled closer, rolling unnaturally straight toward them, stopping just in front of Derek. He kicked it. Nothing happened. It didn't move. It stayed perfectly still, as if waiting. They decided to split up. Maya and Zoe went to explore the sides of the tent. Liam and Derek stayed near the stage. Shadows seemed to move at the edges of their flashlights. Laughter echoed faintly, sometimes behind them, sometimes above. It was playful but wrong, carrying a hollow, eerie edge. Zoe picked up a dusty clown wig from the rack. When she put it on, a chill ran through her. The wig felt too tight, constricting her head like it belonged to someone else. Behind her, she heard the faintest squeak of oversized shoes. Spinning around, she saw nothing. The sound stopped. She dropped the wig, but a feeling lingered, heavy, watching. Liam and Derek found a small door under the stage. It led to a cramped corridor, walls lined with cobwebs. As they stepped in, the laughter grew louder, echoing, surrounding them. They turned a corner and saw them. Clown costumes hanging upright. No bodies inside. Their arms stretched out as if ready to grab. The red noses were scattered on the floor, glowing faintly in the beam of the flashlight. Derek bent down to pick one up. The moment he touched it, the lights on the corridor flickered, and a shadow moved in the corner of his eye. When he looked, nothing was there, but the air felt heavier, thicker. Meanwhile, Maya and Zoe explored the top of the stands. Dust crumbled underfoot, sending plumes into the air. Suddenly, Zoe froze. There on a seat above her was a small figure in full clown makeup, sitting perfectly still. She blinked. It vanished. The laughter intensified, closer now, circling them. They tried to call to Liam and Derek, but their voices were swallowed by the emptiness. In a panic, they reunited at the center of the main tent. The red noses rolled toward them again, one after another, as if moving on invisible strings. They backed toward the entrance, but the tent seemed endless. Every time they reached what should have been the door, it stretched farther away, shadows stretching into corners they hadn't noticed before. Then it happened. One of the costumes, tattered and red, rose from the floor, forming the shape of a clown, a body without a face, moving on its own. Its arms extended, reaching for them. The teens ran, stumbling over debris, falling to their knees. But the sound of laughter followed, echoing, taunting, relentless. They burst out of the tent into the night, gasping for air. The circus grounds were empty once more, silent, as if nothing had happened. Leaves swirled around their feet. The red noses were gone. The laughter had vanished. They looked back. The tents sagged, lifeless and still. Yet each of them knew what they had seen. Weeks later, rumors spread in the neighborhood. Children claimed to see shadows in the windows of the abandoned circus, figures standing behind broken glass, faint laughter carrying on the wind. The teens never spoke of what had truly happened, but each of them felt it, a lingering presence, patient, waiting. Something had never left the circus, and deep down, they knew it would never let anyone leave entirely.